Granny Nora, the admired head of the Harrison family business, had been away for 3 months, during which time she spent a lot of time thinking about her grandson, Max Harrison, who was about to step up as the leader of the family's respected law firm. Max, known for his sharp mind and effortless charm, had a reputation for keeping a low profile. Hardly anyone had ever seen his face clearly, which only added to his air of mystery, even among the staff. At the firm, everyone was buzzing with excitement. Hushed conversations and giggles filled the hallways as colleagues speculated about his arrival. "He's incredibly handsome," one junior associate whispered, barely audible, while another added with a sparkle in her eye, "Imagine being the one to catch his attention. He's the top eligible guy around." Despite all the chatter, no one knew that Max would soon be there incognito. Meanwhile, Granny Nora had hatched her own plan. Instead of making a flashy entrance as the boss, she decided to go undercover as an unassuming cleaning lady. She wanted to see how the firm really ran when no one recognized her true identity. On top of that, she had a secret mission: to find a genuine partner for Max, someone who loved him for who he was, not for his wealth or status. Wearing simple clothes and an old bargain watch, Granny Nora walked into the firm. Most people paid her little mind, but a group of female employees quickly noticed her. One of them sneered, "Look at that cheap watch, trying to look fancy," while another rolled her eyes and mocked, "Seriously, who does she think she is?" They laughed and made rude comments loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Granny Nora stayed quiet at first, carefully observing them, but when one woman got too close and accused her of trying to mingle with the upper class, things heated up. "It's just a beat-up watch," Granny Nora replied coolly. "Why does that matter to you?" Her words did not go over well. One of the women shoved her lightly, causing Granny Nora to stumble, nearly losing her balance. Before the situation could worsen, a firm voice cut through the commotion. "Enough already, Stephanie," said a young, striking lawyer with keen features who stepped in, immediately quieting the room. "What's going on here?" she demanded, crossing her arms. "She's just doing her job. Don't you have better things to do than pick on someone?" The group exchanged uneasy glances but didn't back off entirely. One sneered at Stephanie. "Oh, really? Weren't you the one dumped for being too nosy? No wonder you're still single." Stephanie's jaw clenched, but she defended herself calmly. "I wasn't dumped. I left him. I refused to settle for someone unfaithful or dishonest. It's all about self-respect, something you might try someday." The harsh words stung, and one by one, the women mumbled and dispersed, still clearly irritated. Stephanie then turned to Granny Nora with genuine concern. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Granny Nora offered a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, dear. I appreciate it." "No problem," Stephanie replied with a shrug. "Just let me know if anyone bothers you again." As Stephanie walked away, Granny Nora watched her go with a knowing smile. "She's a good soul," Granny Nora thought to herself. "She's truly special." With the office finally quiet after the earlier disturbance, Granny Nora decided it was the perfect moment to talk to Stephanie. She found her at her desk, buried in a stack of papers. Clearing her throat gently, Granny Nora said, "Excuse me, dear, could I have a minute?" Stephanie looked up and smiled warmly, recognizing the older woman who had just come to her rescue. "Of course, ma'am. What can I do for you?" Granny Nora sat down, her eyes alight with curiosity. "I couldn't help but overhear that you're single. Would you consider marrying my grandson?" Stephanie blinked in surprise at the unexpected question. She laughed politely. "That's very kind of you to offer, but I'm not exactly hunting for love right now. I've been through enough heartbreak and need to focus on my career." Granny Nora tilted her head thoughtfully. "Heartbreak? You're far too young to have experienced that much." Stephanie paused, then sighed. "I've been disappointed by a lot of guys. My last boyfriend, who worked here too, cheated on me right in this office. I caught him red-handed. It was mortifying." Granny Nora's eyes narrowed as she replied firmly, "You're right to be cautious. But believe me, my grandson is completely different. He lost his parents in a tragic accident when he was little, and I raised him with love. He's grown into a kind, dependable man who would never hurt someone like that." Stephanie offered a soft smile, not wanting to hurt her feelings. That's very sweet of you. I'll think about it, she said with a laugh, trying to defuse the seriousness of the moment. At that moment, the office door opened and a young man stepped in, instantly catching Stephanie's attention. He had a striking, handsome face with defined cheekbones, warm eyes, and a confident yet unassuming air. Dressed in simple clothes but carrying himself with quiet dignity, he drew everyone's gaze. "Granny Nora, there you are," he said warmly as he approached. "Alex, come here, dear." "Granny Nora, is this your grandson?" Stephanie asked, momentarily frozen. "This is Alex," Granny Nora said proudly. "He's a new intern at the firm." Alex smiled and extended his hand. "Hi, I'm Alex. It's a pleasure to meet you." Stephanie shook his hand, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I'm Stephanie. Welcome aboard." Alex's smile broadened. "Thanks. I've heard great things about this place, and I'm excited to learn." Granny Nora watched the exchange with satisfaction, already planning her next move. As Stephanie returned to her work, she couldn't help but steal a few glances at Alex, wondering how such a humble, polite guy could be related to the woman who'd just proposed an unusual match. Alex's first day as an intern got off to a smooth start. Disguised as just another junior employee, he fit in effortlessly, his relaxed demeanor making him approachable to everyone, except a few who looked down on his supposed lower rank. Thanks to Granny Nora's discreet maneuvering, Alex was assigned to work closely with Stephanie on an important case involving legal briefs for a high-profile client. Stephanie, one of the firm's best, led the project while Alex assisted her. As they collaborated, Stephanie was pleasantly surprised by Alex's quick grasp of legal concepts and his sharp insights, which made her wonder if he was really just an intern. "You're really good at this," she remarked, giving him an approving smile. Alex chuckled. "I've read plenty of legal books in my spare time. I enjoy learning from people who are passionate about what they do, like you." Blushing slightly, Stephanie thanked him. Meanwhile, Granny Nora kept a discreet watch from a distance, positioning herself where she could overhear their conversations while pretending to tidy up. Every time Stephanie smiled or laughed at something Alex said, Granny Nora's heart swelled with pride. "They're really hitting it off," she murmured with a sly smile as she pushed her cleaning cart aside. Later that day, Stephanie's phone rang as she finished some paperwork. It was a call from her mom. Hesitant, but maintaining a cheerful tone, she answered, "Hi, Mom." "Stephanie, when are you bringing your boyfriend over?" "You promised I'd soon meet your future husband," her mom said excitedly. Stephanie's stomach twisted. She had no boyfriend at all, and the pressure was mounting. Not wanting to disappoint her, she replied nervously, "Soon, Mom. I promise you'll meet him soon." Her mom sighed happily. "Good. You're not getting any younger, sweetheart. I just want to see you happy." "Of course, Mom," Stephanie replied with a forced laugh. "I have to get back to work now." As soon as she hung up, she exhaled deeply. What am I going to do, she thought. The idea of explaining her single status was overwhelming. While Stephanie wrestled with her thoughts, the office buzzed with excitement. Rumor had it that Max Harrison, the elusive and brilliant heir to the Harrison fortune, was about to arrive to officially take charge of the firm. "Do you think he'll let us join his team?" one lawyer asked another. "No way," scoffed Vicky, a bold and ambitious employee. "He's only picking the top talent, and honestly, most of you don't have a chance." Vicky's self-assured tone came from her own ambitions to work directly with Max. She knew his reputation as a record-setting attorney who had never lost a case and was on track to become the youngest senior litigator in the country, and she was determined to impress him at any cost. Spotting Stephanie walking back to her desk, Vicky smirked. "Well, if it isn't Miss Average," she declared loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Don't even think about joining Mr. Harrison's team. He wouldn't pick someone like you, a low-tier lawyer from a little-known school." Stephanie stopped in her tracks, her heart sinking. "That's enough, Vicky," she said quietly. "Am I wrong?" Vicky shot back mockingly. "Everyone knows you're not in his league. Why don't you stick to the minor cases and leave the big league for those of us who actually qualify?" Before Stephanie could reply, Alex stood up from his desk. "Enough," he said firmly, stepping between Vicky and Stephanie. Vicky raised an eyebrow, sizing him up. "And who do you think you are in turn? Do you even have a right to talk to me like that?" I might be just an intern, but I believe in respect and kindness, Alex replied calmly. Stephanie is one of the best lawyers here. If Mr. Harrison values true talent, he'll see it in her. Vicky scoffed. Defending her, huh? That's adorable, but you're just as low down as she is. Don't get in my way, intern. Alex stood his ground. Maybe I'm lower down, but I know that success comes from lifting people up, not tearing them down. With that, Vicky rolled her eyes and stormed off, muttering under her breath. Stephanie, watching the exchange, felt deeply moved by Alex's support. Thank you, she murmured softly. Alex shrugged with a warm smile. I just can't stand seeing good people treated badly. Stephanie couldn't help but smile back. Her heart skipped a beat. For the first time in a long while, she wondered if someone could be different from the guys who had hurt her before. He may not be rich, but he's kind, she thought. Over the next several weeks, Alex and Stephanie grew closer. They worked side by side on cases, often staying late in the office. Their shared laughter and easy banter slowly evolved into something more. One day, in his modest yet charming way, Alex asked Stephanie out on a real date, and she agreed without much hesitation. As their relationship deepened, Vicky's envy grew. Jealousy consumed her, and she started scheming to sabotage Stephanie. Her opportunity came when she overheard Stephanie discussing their budding romance with Alex. Determined to ruin their connection, Vicky devised a plan. One day, she set up a scenario to humiliate both Stephanie and Alex by tampering with documents they were supposed to present to a client, hoping the error would make them seem incompetent. However, her plan backfired when Alex spotted the mistake and corrected it just in time. Furious, Vicky spat, "You're lucky this time, but don't think I won't catch you slipping up again." Alex's patience had worn thin. He couldn't bear to see Stephanie constantly bullied. Deciding enough was enough, he stepped into the center of the office and announced, "Everyone, listen up. I'm not just an intern. My real name is Alexander Harrison, and I've been working undercover to see how things really run here." The room went silent, then erupted in laughter, led by Vicky. "You Alexander Harrison?" she giggled. "That's the funniest thing I've heard all year. Do you really think we're gullible?" Even Stephanie looked shocked. Pulling Alex aside, she whispered urgently, "Alex, are you trying to land yourself in serious trouble? You could be sued for pretending to be Mr. Harrison. Please, stop before it gets worse." Alex looked at her with a mix of frustration and hurt. "I'm telling the truth, Stephanie. I am Alexander Harrison." She shook her head. "If the real Mr. Harrison finds out, he could ruin your life. Please, drop this before it's too late." The situation escalated when Stephanie's ex-boyfriend, Jake, still working at the firm, chimed in, mocking her. "Wow, Stephanie, you really know how to choose them. A poor intern pretending to be Alexander Harrison? That's a new low even for you." Alex's jaw tightened, but he kept his cool. "Jake, insult me all you want, but leave Stephanie out of this." Jake sneered back. "Oh, look at you trying to be a hero. You're just a nobody, a fake lawyer, a fake Harrison. What's next?" Alex straightened up, his gaze icy. "Jake, you've crossed the line. Not only have you insulted me, but you've also been spreading lies about Stephanie. That's defamation, and you could be sued for it." Jake scoffed. "Sued? With what money? You can barely afford lunch. Get real." Before Jake could continue, the HR manager arrived with security. "Jake, you're terminated, effective immediately," she announced. Jake's smug look vanished as he was quickly escorted out. "Consider this your final warning," the manager added. Shaken, Stephanie pulled Alex aside once more. "Alex, this is spiraling out of control. What if Jake tells the real Mr. Harrison that you were pretending to be him? You could lose everything." Alex sighed. "Stephanie, I promise I'm not pretending. I really am Alexander Harrison." Torn between disbelief and worry, Stephanie bit her lip. "I don't know how to help you, but when Mr. Harrison finally arrives, I'll talk to him. I'll explain everything and try to stop him from suing you." Alex nodded, grateful for her concern. That evening, Alex called his trusted assistant, Sam. "Sam, I need you at the firm tomorrow. I want you to act as me, like the real Alexander Harrison. I need to see how everyone reacts when they think they're meeting the CEO." Sam chuckled over the phone. "This is a strange request, sir, but I'll do it. I'll be there first thing." Alex ended the call, determined to sort out the chaos and finally reveal his true identity. The next morning, the office was buzzing with news that Alexander Harrison, the elusive CEO and legal prodigy, was set to make his grand entrance. Everyone dressed to impress, eager to meet him. At exactly 9 a.m., Sam walked in with confidence, sharply dressed and exuding authority. He introduced himself as Alexander Harrison, and the staff was immediately in awe. Vicky, especially, went out of her way to flatter him. "Mr. Harrison, it's such an honor to meet you. I've admired your work for years," she gushed. Sam nodded politely. "Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with all of you." Meanwhile, Alex watched from a corner, pretending to be busy with files, smirking at Vicky's sycophantic behavior and the tense atmosphere among the staff. Stephanie, however, stayed focused on her work, her professionalism shining through. Alex couldn't help but admire her. Granny Nora, still undercover as a humble cleaning lady, observed the unfolding drama with amusement. But her attention wasn't on Sam or Vicky, it was on Stephanie. She was convinced that Stephanie was the perfect match for Alex, and it was time to step in. Later that afternoon, Granny Nora approached Stephanie looking a bit pale and frail. Clutching her chest theatrically, she let out a shaky sigh. "Are you okay?" Stephanie asked, hurrying over. "I'm fine, dear," Granny Nora replied weakly. "It's just that my heart isn't what it used to be. I don't have much time left." Alarmed, Stephanie asked, "Have you seen a doctor?" Granny Nora shook her head. "Nothing a doctor can fix. My only wish before I go is to see my grandson married to a good, kind, and strong woman. Someone like you." Stephanie's heart skipped a beat. "Me?" she whispered. Granny Nora gently squeezed her hand. "I know it's sudden, but Alex cares about you deeply, and I can tell you care for him too. You two would make each other very happy. Please consider it." That evening, Stephanie sat in her apartment, mulling over Granny Nora's words. She couldn't deny the growing feeling she had for Alex. He was kind, supportive, and had been there for her during her darkest moments. Even without wealth, he made her feel truly valued. Then her phone buzzed, a text from her mom. "When are you bringing your fiancée home? I can't wait to meet her." Stephanie sighed. Her mom's constant pressure to settle down added to her uncertainty. Marrying Alex might solve everything. She loved him, and he loved her. Maybe it was time to take a leap of faith. Alex, still unaware of Granny Nora's matchmaking plan, was also deep in thought about Stephanie. He had completely fallen for her, but was nervous about revealing his true identity, worried that if she discovered the truth, she'd feel betrayed. His thoughts were interrupted by a text from Granny Nora. "Come see me. It's urgent." When Alex arrived at Granny Nora's apartment, she was lying on the couch, looking unusually weak. "Granny, what's wrong?" he asked, a note of panic in his voice. With a dramatic sigh, Granny Nora said, "Alex, I'm not doing well. I've been thinking you and Stephanie should get married. She's perfect for you, and I know you feel the same." Alex blinked in surprise. "Married? Really?" Granny Nora interrupted with a sly smile. She already agreed in her heart. "I know she'll say yes. Don't waste any time, Alex. Life's too short." The next day, Granny Nora arranged a meeting between Alex and Stephanie, feigning even worse health to emphasize urgency. As they sat beside her, she smiled weakly. "You two mean the world to me. I know this is sudden, but I want to see you both happy before it's too late. Will you consider getting married?" Exchanging a meaningful glance, both Alex and Stephanie felt a rush of emotion. Finally, Stephanie said steadily, "I'll do it. My mom's been on my case about settling down, and honestly, Alex, I've fallen for you. I don't care about money or status. You're thoughtful and kind, and that's all that matters." Alex's heart filled with emotion. "Stephanie, I feel exactly the same. I'll do anything to make you happy." Granny Nora beamed triumphantly, momentarily forgetting her own frailty. "That's wonderful news. Let's plan a small ceremony right away." Both Alex and Stephanie looked at her in surprise at her sudden burst of energy. Their wedding day was simple yet heartfelt. Stephanie and Alex exchanged vows at a local registry office. Stephanie wore a modest white dress, her natural beauty outshining any jewel, while Alex, in a crisp suit, looked at her with a mix of love and nerves. Despite his joy, a heavy secret weighed on him. The thought that Stephanie might eventually learn his true identity as the real Alexander Harrison and feel deceived by his undercover act haunted him. Granny Nora, dressed in a bright floral outfit, watched the couple with satisfaction. To her, everything was perfect. She saw the love in Stephanie's eyes and the genuine devotion in Alex's. Later, over a small celebratory dinner, Alex leaned in close to his grandmother and whispered his worries. "Granny, what if Stephanie finds out the truth? What if she feels betrayed and leaves? I lied to her, and now we're married. Is it all wrong?" Granny Nora patted his hand reassuringly. "Alex, you never meant to hurt her. You love her, and she loves you too. In time, she'll understand that your intentions were good. Don't lose hope." Alex nodded, though the anxiety still lingered. He wanted to trust her words, but he couldn't shake the fear that one day Stephanie might feel deeply hurt by a secret. After the wedding, Stephanie's work life became even more challenging. Even though her professional reputation was growing, envy simmered among her colleagues. Vicky, who had always been competitive and envious, decided to take drastic measures. One afternoon, during a team meeting, Vicky stood up with a smug expression and declared, "I have something important to report." Holding up a folder, she accused, "Stephanie has been leaking confidential documents to our rivals." Shocked gasps filled the room. Stephanie froze in disbelief. "What? That's not true," she exclaimed. Vicky smirked. "Oh, really? Because I have the evidence right here," as she held up what looked like damning emails with Stephanie's name on them. The room buzzed with whispers as Vicky reveled in the attention. "We can't have someone like her here. Mr. Harrison needs to know about this immediately," Vicky added with satisfaction dripping from every word. Stephanie's heart pounded. She knew the charges were baseless, but the fabricated evidence seemed overwhelming. Her throat tightened as the gravity of the situation sank in. Meanwhile, Alex, still disguised as an intern, clenched his fists under the table. He wanted to stand up for Stephanie, but his cover prevented him from doing so without suspicion. Instead, he pulled Stephanie aside privately. "I believe you," he said softly, his eyes sincere. "No matter what happens, we'll sort this out." Stephanie managed a small, thankful smile, though her shoulders slumped. "Thanks, Alex, but this is serious. If Vicky's lies stick, my career could be ruined." Alex squeezed her hand reassuringly. "You're not alone. I promise I'll do everything I can to help." News of the accusation quickly reached Granny Nora, who sprang into action. Using her influence, she arranged for Stephanie to access legal help and support to counter the false claims, and simultaneously, she gathered evidence to expose Vicky's schemes through her network. Meanwhile, Sam, still posing as Alexander Harrison, was called into a meeting regarding the charges against Stephanie. Confident that he had the CEO's ear, Vicky presented her fake evidence to him. Expecting him to take her side, she was surprised when Sam, following instructions from the real Alex, remained neutral. "This is a serious matter," Sam said, flipping through the folder with a measured tone. "We'll conduct a thorough investigation before making any decisions." Vicky's smile faltered as she insisted, "But the evidence is clear, Mr. Harrison." Sam looked up sharply. "We'll investigate. No more discussion." A week after their simple wedding, Stephanie's life felt like a whirlwind of challenges and emotions. The false allegations still loomed over her, and although Granny Nora and Alex were by her side, the weight of it all pressed heavily on her. One evening, while staying late at the office to work on her defense, Stephanie decided to grab a coffee. As she passed a nearby conference room, she overheard voices and paused. The door was slightly ajar, and she recognized a familiar voice, Alex's. "Sam, I need to stop this." I tried to tell her, but she wouldn't listen, came a quiet, determined tone. "Alex, Stephanie doesn't deserve to be left in the dark. Now that we're married, I can't keep lying," another voice replied. "I understand your concern, but revealing your true identity might complicate matters, especially with Vicky's accusations hanging over Stephanie." the voice continued. Stephanie's heart raced as she leaned in to hear better. Sir, why is Mr. Harrison calling you? Alex, one voice asked. I don't care about complications, Alex said firmly. Stephanie deserves the truth. I'm Alexander Harrison, the CEO of this firm, and my disguise as an intern was just to understand how things work here. Stephanie's breath caught as the pieces started to fall into place. His insights, his confidence, and even Granny Nora's insistence on their marriage. Later that evening, Stephanie waited for Alex at their apartment. When he arrived, she confronted him. I overheard you talking to Sam. You're Alexander Harrison, the CEO, the billionaire Harrison? Alex paused, realizing there was no way to deny it. With a deep sigh, he said, Stephanie, I can explain. You feel betrayed because I hid the truth from you. I posed as an intern and married you without revealing who I really am. Her voice trembled as she cried, Why didn't you tell me before the wedding? I wanted to, but I was scared. You'd feel betrayed or think I only married you because of Granny Nora's scheme. I love you, Stephanie. That's the only reason I married you, and I still owe you the wedding of your dreams if you'll forgive me. Stephanie's anger softened as she saw the sincerity in his eyes. After a long pause, she said, I need time to process this, Alex, but I'm not leaving you. I love you too. Relief washed over him as he thanked her for the chance to make things right. The next morning, Alex made up his mind. He ended his intern disguise and resumed his role as CEO. Granny Nora also decided it was time to stop the charade. When Alex no longer appeared as an intern, rumors spread like wildfire. Vicky was quick to shout, That nosy intern finally got what he deserved. I heard he was fired. Serves him right for sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. Laughter followed from others, and soon they turned their attention to Stephanie. You're probably next, Vicky mocked. Sticking with that, guy wasn't the smartest move. Stephanie maintained her composure with a neutral smile. She didn't correct them or spill the truth. She just smiled and went back to work, confident that soon everyone would learn the real story and their reactions would be priceless. Alexander Harrison had officially reclaimed his place as CEO, earning respect and awe from everyone at the firm. He kept a professional distance from his employees now, except for Stephanie, who alone knew that the intimidating CEO was the same humble intern, Alex. She kept his secret, even as gossip continued to swirl, especially in her own department. One afternoon, a buzz of excitement spread through the firm. Colleagues whispered about a rumor that Mr. Harrison had flown to Paris to buy a necklace worth millions, a lavish token known as the Heart of the Ocean, supposedly a symbol of deep love. He must have gotten it for his wife, one lawyer speculated. But who is she? Another wondered aloud. No one's seen or heard of Mr. Harrison being married. Vicky, ever eager to stir up drama, leaned in conspiratorially. I heard it's for his first love, a woman named Kira. She's gorgeous and comes from a wealthy background. Apparently, she's now Mrs. Harrison. The gossip reached fever pitch when later that day, a glamorous woman entered the office. Kira, dressed in high-end designer clothes and sporting a dazzling diamond necklace, commanded attention everywhere she went. Introducing herself confidently as Mr. Harrison's wife, she instantly won over the staff. She's absolutely stunning, Vicky whispered loudly, casting a smug look at Stephanie. I can see why Mr. Harrison chose her. Some people really should know their place. Stephanie kept her head down, refusing to engage. Her heart pounded with doubt. She knew Alex loved her, yet the way everyone fawned over Kira and her flashy necklace made her wonder if she could ever compete with someone from Alex's past. Not wasting a moment, Kira approached Stephanie with a saccharine yet patronizing smile. So you're Stephanie, right? I've heard so much about you, she said, eyeing her up and down. Stephanie responded confidently, Nice to meet you. Kira tilted her head. It must be tough working here with all this pressure. I hope you don't take it personally if things don't work out. You know, not everyone is cut out for this kind of environment. Stephanie recognized the subtle jab, but maintained her composure. I appreciate your concern, she replied evenly, but I can take care of myself. Kira's smile faltered for a moment before she quickly recovered. Well, best of luck, dear, she said before walking away, her her necklace glimmering and drawing admiring stares from everyone. That evening, Alex picked up Stephanie after work. As they drove off to dinner with Granny Nora, he noticed her unusually quiet. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently. After a moment's hesitation, Stephanie admitted, "I heard about the necklace and about Kira showing up at the office today." Alex frowned. "What did she say?" "Not much," Stephanie replied, "but the way she acted and how everyone treated her, it made me wonder if she's more than just a pretty face." Unsure how to continue, Alex prompted softly, "Do you regret being with me?" Stephanie spoke in a near whisper, "If you do, then maybe." Alex pulled over and turned to face her. "Stephanie, look at me," he said, his eyes searching hers. Reaching into his glove compartment, he pulled out a sleek velvet box. Opening it, he revealed the genuine heart of the ocean necklace, sparkling brilliantly. "This is for you," he said as he fastened it around her neck. "I flew all the way to Paris to get this because you're the only woman I've ever wanted to give it to. Not Kira, nobody else." Stephanie's breath caught as she touched the necklace, overwhelmed by its beauty and meaning. "Alex, Kira means nothing to me," he continued. "She's part of my past, and I've moved on. You're my wife, Stephanie. I love you, and no one can ever take your place." Tears welled in Stephanie's eyes as she smiled, all her doubts melting away. "Thank you," she whispered. "I love you too." Alex kissed her forehead and restarted the car. "Let's not keep Granny waiting. She'll be so happy to see you wearing that necklace." Back at the office, tension grew as Stephanie continued fighting the false document leak accusations. Vicky was relentless in her claims, and soon whispers spread that Stephanie's career might be over. Yet Stephanie was determined not to give up. With Granny Nora's resources and Alex's secret support, she worked tirelessly to collect evidence. After days of poring over emails, security footage, and system logs, she finally uncovered proof that Vicky had fabricated the emails and planted false evidence to frame her. At an internal meeting, Stephanie presented her findings confidently. "Here's the email metadata. It shows the leak came from Vicky's account, not mine. Plus, this footage confirms she accessed the files after hours." The room filled with murmurs as the evidence was reviewed. Vicky, sitting across from them, turned pale and stammered, "This is ridiculous. You must have faked it." A senior partner interjected firmly, "Enough, Vicky. The evidence is undeniable. You've not only framed Stephanie, but also breached our confidentiality policies. We have no place for someone like you." Vicky's face twisted in anger and desperation as she protested, "You don't understand. She doesn't belong here. She's nothing compared to me." At that moment, Kira entered the room, her presence commanding silence. "Don't even try to pin this on me, Vicky," she said coldly, "but I'll own up to my part." The room fell silent as Kira admitted she had colluded with Vicky, providing access to fake documents and coaching her on sabotaging Stephanie. Her motive was simple: jealousy. She had wanted to undercut Stephanie and win back Alex's attention. Finally, Alex stepped forward, his voice steady and cold. "You both should be ashamed. Your actions have hurt an innocent person and tarnished the reputation of this firm." Vicky and Kira were escorted out as murmurs of disbelief filled the room. Standing at the head of the table, Alex addressed everyone with authority. "Before we move forward, there's something you all need to know. Many of you have wondered about my time here as an intern. I wasn't really here to learn. I was here to observe." Confused glances passed around the room until Alex continued, "I am Alexander Harrison, CEO of this firm." Gasps filled the space as everyone stared in shock. "And one more thing," he added, his gaze softening as it met Stephanie's. "Stephanie isn't just an employee. She's my wife. We recently got married, and I'm proud to call her my partner for life." Stephanie's heart swelled as she looked at him. He had finally come clean, and he had stood up for her in front of everyone. The room fell silent. Then one by one, the employees began apologizing. "Mrs. Harrison, we had no idea," one murmured. "We're so sorry for the way we treated you," another said. "Please forgive us," came from even those who had once joined Vicky's side. Stephanie held her head high and replied, "This isn't about forgiving me. It's about understanding that bullying, no matter who it's aimed at, is unacceptable. Whether you're rich or poor, powerful or not, workplace harassment is both unethical and illegal. I hope you've all learned that lesson today. Alex nodded in agreement. Stephanie's right. From now on, this firm will not tolerate such behavior. Learn from this experience, or you might find yourself out of a job. The employees nodded somberly, clearly shaken by the events. As the meeting ended, Alex took Stephanie's hand and led her out, their heads held high. Despite the rocky road, they had emerged stronger, united by their love and integrity. "Thank you, Stephanie," she whispered as they stepped into his office, where Alex wrapped an arm around her. "I'll always be by your side. You're my heart and my future." Before long, Alex and Stephanie became the talk of the firm, celebrated as the ultimate power couple. Their blend of professionalism and genuine affection left many in awe. Stephanie's determination and grace, combined with Alex's sharp leadership, made them an unbeatable team, and their love story became a quiet inspiration. One calm evening, while sitting on the balcony of their stylish home and sipping tea, the city lights twinkled in the distance as a comfortable silence settled between them. Breaking the quiet, Alex began, "There's something I've been meaning to tell you. Why I chose to become a lawyer." Stephanie raised an eyebrow, curious. Alex set his cup aside, his expression soft with nostalgia. "Because of you, Stephanie." Surprised, she asked, "What do you mean?" Alex smiled gently. "You might not remember, but when we were teenagers, we met once. You saved me." Stephanie frowned as she leaned in closer. Alex recalled vividly how, as a shy teen, he had been cornered by bullies at school. They mocked him for his quiet nature and his family's wealth, pushing him around as he tried to stand up for himself. "Think you're better than us, rich kid?" one bully sneered. Just as Alex braced for another shove, a determined voice rang out, "Back off." The bullies turned to see a fiery young girl, Stephanie, marching toward them, hands on her hips and eyes blazing with defiance. "Who do you think you are?" one jeered. "I'm someone who's going to be a lawyer," Stephanie declared steadily. "And when I do, I'll hold each of you accountable for harassment and bullying." The bullies laughed nervously, but Stephanie's determination made them think twice. After the confrontation, as she walked over to Alex, he quietly thanked her for standing up for him. "You might have forgotten that day, but I never did," he admitted. "Seeing you fight for me with such courage changed everything. I wanted to be like you, stand up for what's right, and protect those who can't protect themselves." Stephanie's eyes widened. "Alex, I had no idea." He smiled. "When I saw you again at the firm, I recognized you immediately. I knew I couldn't let you slip away this time. Even without Granny Nora's push, I would have done everything to make you mine." Stephanie blushed and smiled shyly. "All those words you've held on to, they've been my inspiration too." Alex leaned in closer, his voice soft and full of affection. "Believe it, Mrs. Harrison." They shared a warm, heartfelt hug, their bond deepened by the shared memory of their past. For Stephanie, knowing that she had unknowingly changed Alex's life filled her with pride and warmth. The very next day, Granny Nora invited them over for dinner. As they sat around the table, she eyed them mischievously. "You two make such a lovely couple," she said with a smile. "But you know what would make this even better?" Stephanie tilted her head. "What is it, Granny?" "Great-grandkids," Granny Nora exclaimed with a laugh. "I'm not getting any younger. You know, a little one running around would be just perfect for this family." Stephanie's face flushed bright red as she protested. "Oh, come on, Granny." Alex chuckled. "Don't rush it, Granny. We're taking it one step at a time." Granny Nora waved him off playfully. "Nonsense. You're married now. What are you waiting for?" Stephanie covered her face with her hands, while Alex reached out to squeeze hers with an infectious laugh. "We'll keep that in mind, Granny," he teased. As the evening progressed, the conversation shifted, but Granny Nora's playful hints lingered in Stephanie's mind. She caught Alex grinning at her a few times, his eyes twinkling with amusement as they left Granny Nora's house. Later that night, as they walked together, Stephanie slipped her hand into Alex's. "She's not going to let up, is she?" Alex joked with a grin. "Don't worry. We'll figure it out in our own time, he replied. Stephanie smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder as they strolled, their love deepened by honesty and shared memories. She felt ready to face whatever the future held, whether it was the challenges at work or Granny Nora's well-meaning meddling. Outside, Kira sat in her car parked by Alex and Stephanie's mansion, determination etched on her face. She couldn't believe how easily she'd been brushed aside. Watching Alex shower Stephanie with love and attention had pushed her over the edge. In her eyes, she wasn't about to lose the charming billionaire to some ordinary girl. She had a plan, and she was ready to put it into action. That afternoon, while Stephanie was out running errands, Kira managed to sneak into the mansion. Moving quietly to avoid the household staff, she headed toward the kitchen. There, she spotted a bottle of wine in the fridge. Smirking, she pulled a small vial from her purse and poured its contents into the wine. This will remind him of what we once had, she whispered to herself. She poured a glass and placed it on the coffee table in the living room, sure that Alex would sit there after work. Confident in her scheme, Kira hid nearby and watched as Alex drank the wine. Unbeknownst to Kira, Granny Nora had decided to drop by the mansion unannounced. When she stepped through the front door, she immediately sensed something was off. Spotting Kira lounging in the living room, Granny Nora's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing here, Kira?" she demanded sharply. For a moment, Kira's confidence wavered, but she quickly recovered. "Oh, Granny Nora, I just came to see Alex. I thought we could catch up." Granny Nora's gaze drifted to the wine glass on the table. Her years of experience told her something was amiss. "Alex didn't invite you, and he certainly doesn't need a catch-up session right now." Before Kira could respond, Granny Nora picked up the glass and sniffed it. Her face darkened. "What have you done?" she demanded coldly. "Did you spike this?" Kira stammered. I didn't mean to." "That's enough," Granny Nora snapped, cutting her off. She turned to the nearest security guard. "Get this woman out of here immediately and make sure she never returns." The guards quickly escorted a furious and defeated Kira out of the mansion. Granny Nora sighed, her anger softening into concern, and immediately called Stephanie. Stephanie arrived at the mansion shortly after, alarmed by Granny Nora's call. "Granny, what happened?" she asked, rushing. "G inside." Granny Nora recounted everything, from Kira sneaking in and drugging Alex. Stephanie's face turned pale with anger and disbelief. "She's not getting away with this," she declared firmly. Granny Nora gave her a sly smile. "I've already handled her, but there's one more thing you need to take care of." "What do you mean?" Stephanie asked, confused. Granny Nora led her to a bedroom where Alex was visibly shaken, still reeling from the incident. "You two need some time to yourselves," Granny Nora said gently as she pushed Stephanie into the room before anyone could object, then closed and locked the door. Stephanie blinked. "Granny, what are you doing?" "Just setting things straight," Granny Nora replied from the other side. "You'll thank me later." Alex chuckled as he walked over to Stephanie. "Looks like we're stuck here." Stephanie sighed but smiled. "I can't believe Kira would stoop so low." Taking her hand, Alex said seriously, "She means nothing, Stephanie. You're the only woman I care about. You're my wife, and nothing will ever change that." Looking into his eyes and finding only sincerity, Stephanie felt a wave of relief as she whispered, "I love you, Alex." "I love you too," he replied, drawing her closer. 2 weeks later, the Harrison family gathered for a quiet dinner at Granny Nora's house. The atmosphere was light and joyful, with laughter filling the room as they served the main course. Suddenly, Stephanie excused herself to use the restroom and returned moments later looking pale. Alex immediately noticed. "Stephanie, are you okay?" he asked with concern. I think I had something bad," she replied weakly. Granny Nora's eyes lit up with suspicion, but she said nothing. Alex stood up, worry etched on his face. "We're going to the hospital," he declared firmly. Despite Stephanie's protest, Alex insisted, "I'm not taking any chances." As they left, Granny Nora sat back with a knowing smile. Well, she murmured, "looks like I'm going to be a great-grandma sooner than expected." Later that evening, the doctor confirmed what Granny Nora had suspected. Stephanie was pregnant. Alex's joy was boundless, and Stephanie's heart swelled with happiness. When they shared the news with Granny Nora, she nearly danced with delight. Their journey had been full of challenges and surprises, but as they looked ahead to this new chapter, Alex and Stephanie knew they were stronger together. Their love, forged through trials and honesty, was only beginning to blossom.